So here is my entire Scream Factory collection. Scream Factory is like a offshoot branch of Shell Factory. It's like their label that they release all their horror films under. And it's quite popular among Blu-ray collectors. So I'm going to show my complete collection, which I got tons of films. I got almost all of them. There's some I'm missing, but I got most of them, I think. So they come in like 3 different types of releases. There's the single release, which is just like kind of not bare bones. There's some special features, but not quite the collector's edition release. And then there's the collector's edition release that has the cool new like commission cover art. It has a slip cover. It has reversible cover art, and it's like usually low special features. And then there's like the double feature editions where basically there are 2 movies released on one Blu-ray disc that are usually bare bones. So I'll start off with the double features of Scream Factory releases here. First up, I got Blackula, the Scream, Blackula Scream. These are really great like black exploitation films. This kind of jump started my interest in black exploitation movies. So good. Pam Grier is in Scream, Blackula Scream. I highly recommend it. She's really cool in it. It's basically about this young African prince who goes to Count Dracula for help because, his people were becoming slaves, but instead Dracula, like, bites him in the neck and, puts him in the crypt, and then he wakes up in, like, the 70s, hundreds of years later. It's really fun, really cheesy. I highly recommend it. This is probably the best double feature release that Scream Factory released, honestly. I can't... I'm looking at all the double features, and so far this is the best one that I like, that I prefer the most. Next up, I got Empire of Ants and Jaws of Satan. I didn't really care for Jaws of Satan too much, but I really, really dug Empire of Ants. Very cheesy. Joan Collins is in it. She's like a tour guide, or like she's trying to sell like real estate condos on this deserted island. And it's run with like huge bugs, huge ants, basically. Yeah, it's run by huge ants, killer ants, and the death scenes are cheesy. This is just a lot of fun. So I recommend picking this up just for Empire of Ants. But Jaws of Satan is okay. This is fun, but it's not as good as Empire of Ants. Highly recommend it for Empire of Ants. Then I got Love at First Bite and One Spin. I forgot how terrible One Spin was. One Spin is terrible. Jim Carrey. I highly recommend don't even watch that movie. It was unwatchable to me. But Love at First Bite was awesome. There's like really cool like dance scenes. Like I love the nightlife. I love the boogie. Like back in like the 70s. There's like this dance scene with George Hamilton playing the Dracula character. But it's a satire. It's not supposed. It's a comedy. These are horror comedies. And Love at First Bite is actually pretty fun. I really dug it. So then we got X-Ray and Schizoid. I seen these. They're both slashers. X-Ray was the one with the serial killer, like stalking people in the hospital. Really low budget, but I respect it because Canon Films made that release, so I respect it on that. And then Klaus Kinski's in Schizoid, which is fun enough, just because he's so it's worth the watch. And yeah, both these have interviews by one with the director and one with the actress. So. There we go, not bad. Those are all my double features. I mean, there are more double features out there that I really want to pick up eventually. But next up, let's move on to the single releases of Scream Factory. First up, we got the Winged Serpent. This is directed by Larry Cohen. Very fun movie. It's kind of very odd as well. This feathered serpent going around New York City killing people and like flying over the city and like nobody notices it until they die. I don't know. It's very cheesy, and the guy, Michael Moriarty. He's the guy from The Stuff. He plays the main like hero, I guess, even though he's kind of a coward. And then David Carradine's in this too, as the cop trying to find like the winged serpent. So it's okay. I don't know if I'm ever going to rewatch this movie. I don't know how high rewatchable. It's fun to have a couple beers and make fun of, though. It's one of those type of movies. But the next up is a really awesome canon film movie, Ninja 3: The Domination. This film is amazing. I love it. I could watch this over and over and over again. It's just about a ghost ninja takes over the body of like this actress / model, I think. I don't remember quite what her story was. But, this is canon fluff. If you're a fan of canon films, like the American Ninja films or like the Death Wish films, there's a lot of fun to be had with Ninja 3: The Domination. This is one of the best So Bad It's Good movies. If you guys are interested in So Bad It's Good movies, definitely pick up Ninja 3, because this is one of the best for sure. I love it. Next up is Knightriders with Ed Harris being like the King Arthur type person who's like involved with like a Renaissance fair, but like with dirt bikes, and they like battle each other, or they jealous each other on these bikes, and it's very drama-ish, melodrama, directed by George A. Romero. And I don't know, it was kind of too long for me. It was like 2.5 hours long, but you know, I never got bored with it or anything. It was really cool because Tom Savini plays like the main bad guy, or arch nemesis of King Arthur, in this like little Renaissance fair type situation. So I respect it. You know, there's new interviews on this as well with George A. Romero, Tom Savini, and Ed Harris. So that's kind of cool to see what they had to say about this movie, or making of this movie. But yeah, I don't know if this ain't really a Scream Factory technically, but you know, I consider it a Scream Factory. Next up is a Final Exam, great slasher cheese from the 80s. You know, it seems like Scream Factory releases a lot of their stuff from the 80s. That's like their specialty. And it's cool because 80s is like one of the coolest decades that release horror films. It's probably the best decade for horror is the 80s. So yeah, this one is crazy. There's the beginning scene where like these frat boys play a prank on like the college campus, and their prank is they're like dressed up as terrorists, and like they have like these Uzis, and they go around with blanks shooting like people, like shooting the students on campus. They can't get away with shit like that today. I'll tell you that. It's just ridiculous. I had a lot of fun with this movie actually, but I recommend picking it up if you're slightly interested in it, because I actually had a lot of fun with Final Exam, because you don't know who the killer is till the end. And it's there's some pretty graphic kill scenes with this big knife and stuff. He just goes around terrorizing the college campus basically, but it's kind of weird too. So I dug it. Next up, we got The Beast Within. I have the Arrow Video copy of this, so I haven't really opened this one up yet. But you know, it has a commentary on there, so a couple commentaries, and one from Tom Holland, which is cool because Tom Holland was the guy who did Fright Night. So yeah, this movie is pretty cool. It's this 80s like werewolf Jekyll and Hyde type film, but instead of he's like turns into a monster obviously, but his monster is like a bug. He's kind of like becomes like a type of monster bug, I believe. And there's a really cool transformation scene towards the end of this film. So you know, if it's cheap, but yeah, you should definitely pick it up. This is one of my all-time favorite releases for like their single release line. I really wish it got a collector's edition. I don't know why it didn't, but Witchboard. I mean, it's loaded with special features too, so it's just as loaded as any of the collector's editions. So I have no idea why this is not part of the line. But it's basically, I think people in their mid-20s or a group of friends, play with the Ouija boards, and like it's about there's like an underlying theme about friendship in this movie, and they kind of fight over the same girl. And I don't know, it's directed by the same guy who did Night of the Demons, which I really, really love. So this is a great counterpiece to that. Like it'll be a good double feature to watch Witchboard, then watch Night of the Demons, because it's kind of the same attitude and voice, the director's voice or whatever, throughout both films. I highly recommend picking up Witchboard. I love Witchboard. I have Witchboard 2. That's an all films release, so it's just as good as Witchboard 1, I believe. So I highly, highly, highly recommend picking up this Witchboard film if you love cheesy Ouija board fun. The next up, I got The Dark Half. This one was okay. It was kind of slow, kind of boring. Also directed by George A. Romero. It's based off a Stephen King novel, and it's basically about a guy who has like a doppelganger killing all these people, and he's like an author. And I don't know, it gets kind of confusing towards the end, but it was okay. I don't, and it's low special features, has commentaries, it has making ofs, has all new retrospective. So I mean, this is loaded as well. Some of these single releases are just loaded with special features. So I don't know why they don't make them collector's editions. But this one was okay. So yeah, Dark Half. The next up, Without Warning. I had very, very, very high expectations for this film. I did not understand how low budget this actually was. It looked like a student film. And I don't know, I kind of took me out of it a little bit. I think I need to rewatch it again, but it's basically an alien attacks teenagers doing stuff in the woods, and it's basically that's basically the plot. But it's, I don't know, the way alien that kills people is he throws like these sucker things at them, and they kind of look like throwing stars a little bit, but they're like bug monsters. I don't know, but the alien does look pretty cool. Like, I mean, there's him in the back. But I wish he was in the movie more. He was only in the movie for like the last 10 or 15 minutes of the film. So I wish he was in it a little bit more. But, it was okay, Without Warning. Alright, so those are all my single releases. Now let's move on to the good stuff, the collector's editions. First up, one of my favorite releases that Scream Factory releases, From Beyond. I love this film. It reminded me a lot of The Thing. Like this, the graphics are very similar as The Thing. I mean, look at that! If you can see that monster right there transforming. Jeffrey Combs in it once again is brilliant. Directed by the great Stuart Gordon, who did Reanimator. And you know, it's really cool to watch all the films with Stuart Gordon and Jeffrey Combs because they're a pretty good duel. And it's based off an H.P. Lovecraft movie, which is even great because so is Reanimator. But I really dug the shit out of this. This is about dealing with like monsters from a different dimension, kind of taking over yourself, and you become you yourself become monsters. And I don't know, this movie's awesome. I would say this is a pretty good blind buy if you like The Thing and Reanimator. This is kind of like a combination of the two. So yeah, highly recommend From Beyond. And in a sense, I'll show you the reverse cover art, which is that. How badass is that, Tom? Because these collector's editions have reverse cover art. So there we go. Next up is Motel Hell. This is kind of like a horror comedy where these people they own a motel and they kill the victims and like serve them as barbecue. So it's kind of funny, and they like plant them in the dirt and stuff. So I mean, there's a really cool scene with the chainsaw guy with the put the pig head on him, and yeah, this is a very this is a black comedy basically. So I had a lot of fun with it, and there's the reverse cover art. I recommend this one too. This one, a lot of these collector's editions are actually a lot of fun. Next up, we got Prison. This is Viggo Mortensen's first feature, I believe, they started in before Lord of the Rings and all that stuff. I mean, there he is right there looking all cool and badass. So yeah, this is basically a ghost story in prison, and the prisoners are like figuring out that something's going wrong, but of course the prison guards are not going to listen to them. But it has really great special effects. It's like first class special effects. And then there's the reverse cover art, which is super badass. And yeah, all these collector's editions are loaded with special features. There's always making of, and there's always like a retrospective. Same with this one. There's an auto commentary. So yeah, I mean, pretty cool. And I believe this was an old Empire film. I could be wrong because I think Charles Band was the executive producer of this film. So who knows? But yeah, Prison. Next up, I didn't really care for this one too much. Class of 1984. I don't know if it's not exactly a horror movie. It's more along the lines of like Warriors, for example. Basically, it's a bunch of punk kids who are in the gang and like terrorize their teacher, and the teacher gets fed up with it and starts beating the shit out of and killing the kids. Towards the very end, anyway. There was rape in this movie, so it kind of turned me off actually, and I kind of like just became numb, and I just didn't care about this movie after that scene happened. But another notable thing is this is actually written by Tom Holland as well, so that's cool. And it stars Roddy McDowall. Roddy McDowall actually has a really cool performance in this movie, so it's kind of cool to see Roddy, because that's how like Tom Holland probably met Roddy McDowall, was on this film, and of course cast him as Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer in Fright Nights. And then there's the reverse cover art, which is pretty good. Actually, I think I almost dig the reverse cover art more so, but yeah, there we go. Class 1984. Then we got, of course, Escape from LA. Awesome cover art. Look at that. So badass. Then they have the original artwork there. And there's a extra disc loaded with special features. So this is loaded with look at it. There's 2 discs. This usually doesn't happen in their collector's editions, where there's a second disc full of special features. And one of the special features is an intro scene of Snake Plissken, how he got arrested and sent to the island, which is kind of cool. It gives you some insight on who Snake Plissken kind of is. And yeah, this stars a lot of great people. Like, it stars Lee Van Cleef, from Good, Bad, and the Ugly. It stars Ernest Borgnine. He's a big character actor. Donald Pleasant, big character actor. Isaac Hayes, Henry D. Stanton. This stars so many character actors. It's ridiculous. And of course, it's directed by John Carpenter. And, stars the awesome Kurt Russell. This is one of Kurt Russell's best films. This actually broke Kurt Russell all of his Disney movies he was making, because he was like a big child actor and did all these Disney movies. So this is like his big film to like get away from that and start making films that he wanted to. So yeah, awesome release. Then we got The Fog, another great John Carpenter film. Look at it. I guess his slipcover is hard to find nowadays, so because this is one of their earlier releases. This ain't the best John Carpenter movie, but what he does really well in this film is nail the atmosphere. He just nails it. Like, it's about ghost pirates basically terrorizing this New England town, and yeah, it's cool because I think yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is in this. Tom Atkins, who I love Tom Atkins. You know, he's badass. Pretty good, decent slasher. I mean, you might have high expectations going in just because John Carpenter directed it, but you know, it's pretty good as a standalone for sure. And then there's the reverse cover art. Not too shabby. There we go, the fuck. Next up, one of my personal favorites, Sleepaway Camp. I love this film. It's so fun, so cheesy. 80s slasher camp film, but the ending is like one of the biggest shockers of all time. Don't Google it. Don't do any research or read anything about Sleepaway Camp because it'll give it away. And just blind buy it. You trust me, this movie's awesome. I think it's a comedy, honestly. Like there's a lot of horror elements into it, and this movie is serious, but there's a lot of cheesy humor in it that a lot of people don't catch, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. And then there's the reverse cover art. I think this is one of my favorite Scream Factory releases. Then of course you gotta get the sequels to Sleepaway Camp. So I got Sleepaway Camp 2 and then Sleepaway Camp 3. You know, these are not as good as the original. They kind of like take place like in a different world almost. So I don't know. It's played by a different actress. Like the main killer is played by a different actress, and it's directed by a different director. So they're kind of different movies altogether. But you know, they're okay. Then there are John Carpenter flick, sold on Precinct 13. I haven't seen this before until I got it, and I gotta say this movie is awesome. This movie is badass. There's a lot of like really harsh death scenes in it. It's basically about this gang that kind of like invades a police station, and there's only like a handful of people trying to protect themselves from this gang, you know, and there's a lot of cool death scenes. And this is one of John Carpenter's first films, and I love it actually. It's a pretty and like the soundtrack's amazing because you know all of John Carpenter's films, the soundtrack is amazing. So there's another one for you guys. There's the reverse cover art. Not too shabby. Next up, I got Nightbreed, directed by Clive Barker. There is a limited edition of this, but it's a little too expensive for my taste. And yeah, so I love Nightbreed. I thought it was one of his better films. I prefer Hellraiser. I prefer his next one after this actually too. But a lot of people love Nightbreed. I mean, it's a serious movie. It's a fantasy. It's more of a fantasy than a horror. Basically, all the freaks go, they live in like beneath a cemetery, and like all the monsters, and then you know who are really the monsters, or is it the humans, or is it the monsters? It's one of those type of films. But yeah, it was fun enough. I think it's on Netflix streaming if you want to check it out. But yeah, there we go. I actually prefer this one a little bit more as the Lure of Illusions because it's more of like it's kind of filmed like a film noir / horror movie, which I respect. And actually has two cuts. Has the theatrical cut and has the director's cut, which I prefer because I think it probably makes more sense. Because I remember the director Clive Barker was complaining that the studio cut a lot of it out. So if you want to see the complete cut, same with Nightbreed. That happened with Nightbreed too. The studio cut out a lot of stuff. So if you want to see these movies in their entirety, make sure to check them out. You know, there's a reverse cover art. You know, Scott Bakula plays like the main detective guy, kind of researching like this cult that happened like 20 years ago. And there's like magical powers going on and stuff like that. And it's kind of filmed like a mystery, you know. So I dug it actually. I really enjoyed it. So there we go. Next up, probably Scream Factory's best release is They Live. Gotta love Roddy Piper. There's not too many special features on this. You know, there's a commentary and there's a new interview by John Carpenter, and there's the making of. So you know, there's a decent amount of special features actually. And there's the original cover art. But look at that cover art. It's like the best. This poster would have been really cool to get, but you know it's been long out of print for a while now. But this is probably Scream Factory's best release because I love They Live. It looks really good on Blu-ray. Roddy Piper, you know, they put on these magical sunglasses and they see like all like the rich capitalist people are like aliens and they don't belong here, and like all the poor working class people are normal. There's a lot of like you know satire and like remarks about our capitalist system in this movie, and the soundtrack is amazing. Highly recommend They Live. Another great blind buy. Next up, I got Halloween 2. Return. No, this ain't the Return of Mike Myers, but I just got Halloween 2. I know Scream Factory released that big Halloween set not too long ago, but you know I already have all the Halloween movies on Blu-ray, so I'm not going to pick that up. All the ones I want anyway, which is like 1 through 5. I care less about the rest of them. So, but this one's really cool. Low special features. There's like a different like TV cut that's included on here, and this is double disc as well. This one was pretty good, actually. I'm not going to lie. Halloween 2 was actually really good. It was produced by John Carpenter. It wasn't directed by him. And, yeah, uncut and Raw. Next up, the only collector's edition, which I don't have the slipcover, and it pisses me off. Halloween 3. This is one of my favorite horror movies, actually. I really, really dig Halloween 3. And this is the second best Halloween movie, in my opinion, after the first one. And I got this off of Amazon, and it came with a slipcover, so I never ordered anything off Amazon ever again that is Scream Factory, because I wanted the slipcovers. And so I've been ordering them through, Shell Factory, just to get the slipcover, basically. And, sometimes they come with a cool poster, so that's cool, too. But who doesn't love Halloween 3? Seriously, it's one of the best films ever. With Tom Atkins. I love Tom Atkins. It's basically about a company making these masks, and when Halloween strikes, these masks basically dissolve and become like acid or something. I don't know. It gets crazy. But I love Halloween 3. It has nothing to do with Michael Myers, so... which I find refreshing, actually. Next up, another John Carpenter joint, which is Prince of Darkness with the slipcover. This one's a little slow, actually. It's a John Carpenter directed film. Soundtrack's amazing once again. The intro is like 15 minutes long, which is a little slow. But it was really cool because the Chinese guy from Big Trouble in Little China is also in this film as well, because it was directed around the same time period as Big Trouble in Little China. So it's cool to see that guy in like a different John Carpenter film. Because he's only in 2. But, it basically has to do with Satan underneath the church in, like, this container. He's like a green blob mass. And he basically escapes and, like, kind of and then he infects other people there, and they become, like, zombies. And really cool movie. It's a slow burn, so don't, like, get excited like it's a big horror movie nonstop. It's definitely a slow burn, but I think it's worth it for sure. Next up, another one of my all-time favorite Scream Factory releases is Night of the Demons. I love Night of the Demons. This is a very safe blind buy. Personally, it's a great film to watch on Halloween. I think the original title of this movie is going to be like Halloween Time or something like that, but the Halloween franchise will like sue them because they claim they own the right of the name of the word Halloween, so they couldn't have Halloween in the title, which is stupid. But whatever, Night of the Demons sounds just as badass. I mean, this movie is awesome. Like they basically these group of teenagers, throw a little Halloween party in like this haunted house, and they basically one by one gets transformed into a demon. Awesome film, and this is from the same director who did Witchboard, Kevin S. Tenney. And there's a lot of like humor in it, like cheesy humor that I don't know if it's kind of on the threshold of so bad it's good. I'm not quite sure, but I highly recommend Night of the Demons. It's one of my all-time favorites, and there's the reverse cover art. Awesome film. Next up, I don't know if this is a collector's edition, so I'm just going to throw it up there anyway, is the Babadook. I really didn't care for this film so much. It's more of a family drama, but look at that. Look at that pop out. Bam, bam. It was more of a family drama than a horror movie, but I respect it for what it is. And yeah, so not too much to say about it. Next up, got Phantasm 2, one of the better Scream Factory releases. This is probably in the top 10 to get for sure. It's like an action horror movie, and you gotta respect action horror because there's really not too many out there, and if there are, they're not really done well. But this one was done really, really well because the first Phantasm movie was straight up horror movie. It was like a horror fantasy, and I liked how this one kind of switched gears and became a horror action. So I kind of really appreciate it. It's kind of like Evil Dead, where like Evil Dead kind of gets more towards action. There's like a lot of comedy in those Evil Dead movies where there's not in this so much. But the Phantasm movies are actually pretty hard to explain, so I'm not even gonna try. But there we go. And there's the reverse cover art. This is one of the better releases for Scream Factory as well. Next up, I got Mad Max. This is like a re-release. It released. There's like so many different Mad Maxes out there now. It's ridiculous. But there's a lot of new special features on here, including a new interview with Mel Gibson about like kind of like a retrospective on Mad Max, because Mad Max made Mel Gibson's career, and I found that really interesting actually. So and then there's reverse cover art, which is actually super badass, and this is like pretty cheap too, so it wasn't so bad. Next up, I got a couple of newer Scream Factories that I won't talk about too much because I'll put that up in my Blu-ray Collection update video for the next month. Ghost House and the Witchery. Awesome again. Robojocks, which is a really fun 80s like beat 'em up robot film, kind of like Pacific Rim, but of course not as good as graphics. But I really enjoy it. And then of course the awesome dog soldiers that I've seen for the very first time, and I gotta say this movie's amazing. And there's the reverse cover art for that. So there's my entire collection of Scream Factories. So make sure to like this video if you like Scream Factory. Comment below which ones am I missing that I need to pick up, which ones do you have, which ones are your favorite Scream Factory releases, because I really want to know. I like to hear people's opinions about particular companies, and one of them is Scream Factory. And you know, make sure to subscribe if you like these types of videos, because I have more coming. So there you go. Keep it real.